The desert wind of the western frontier carried broken whispers, stories of men who ruled the dust, with iron hunger and lawless cruelty. Among them none was feared more than Rancher Ruko, a broad-shouldered outlaw, whose dark hat and leather coat were known across the plains. Townsfolk said he had no heart, no mercy, no softness, only the need to take whatever he desired. And on one fateful evening he took Clara. Clara had only stepped out to fetch water from the old creek running behind her small cabin. The sun hung low, painting the sky in orange fire when Ruko and his men thundered in like a storm. They looted the area, broke into pantries, smashed doors, and when Ruko's cold eyes fell on Clara, everything inside her froze. He didn't speak at first. He only stared as if she were another treasure he wished to drag into his lonely darkness. He didn't hurt her, but his grip was firm when he forced her onto his horse. She screamed, fought, begged for help, but the plains were empty. No neighbor close enough, no lawman brave enough, no miracle near enough. She disappeared into the wilderness with Ruko, leaving her old life behind in swirling dust. Ruko's hideout stood deep within a rocky canyon, where even the sun seemed reluctant to shine. There Clara became a captive, compelled to cook, clean, and work endlessly under the shadow of the outlaw's threats. Every time she tried to raise her voice, Ruko silenced her with a glare that carried the weight of storms. His presence suffocated her spirit. He did not strike her, but his control, his pressure, his constant intimidation felt like an invisible cage tightening around her. Nights were the hardest. The fear of his footsteps outside her room, the dread of his commands, the sound of drunken laughter from his gang echoing in the canyon. Each night stole a little more of her courage, but Clara was not born to break. She waited. She watched. She learned the routines of the men, the hour they fell asleep, the path the horses followed, the shift of the canyon guards. And one early dawn, when a fragile silver light slipped over the rocks, Clara gathered every piece of courage left in her trembling heart and ran. Her bare feet slapped against cold earth. Branches scratched her arms. The forest swallowed her breath as she pushed deeper, praying the shadows would hide her. She didn't know where she was going. She only knew she had to keep moving until her lungs burned and her tears dried. That was when she saw him, a lone cowboy riding slowly through the forest trail. Not a gunslinger with dead eyes, not a bounty hunter thirsty for gold, just a calm, weathered man with a steady gaze, like someone who had seen storms and survived them. His horse halted at the sight of Clara stumbling out of the bushes. "Ma'am," he said gently, lowering himself from the saddle. "You're hurt." Clara shook her head desperately. "Please, please leave. If Ruko finds you with me, he'll kill you. Go, just go." The cowboy's expression didn't change. He stepped forward, offering his coat to her shivering frame. "No," he said quietly. "No one deserves to live in fear, and no woman should run alone in a forest hunted by a man like Ruko." Clara felt her knees weaken. Her breath trembled. "You don't understand," she whispered. "He'll come for me." The cowboy nodded, his voice steady as iron. "Then let him come. You're not going back there. Not while I'm breathing." For the first time in days, Clara felt a fragile spark of safety flicker inside her. She didn't know who he was or why he cared, but his eyes carried a promise she had never heard before, a promise of freedom. The forest seemed quieter once Clara leaned against the cowboy's coat, her breath slowly settling into something calmer, something almost human again. For a long moment, neither spoke. The early morning wind whispered through the pines above them, and sunlight began to slip through branches like soft gold threads. Clara felt warmth, real warmth, for the first time since Ruko dragged her into his canyon of darkness. Cowboy eased her onto his horse and walked beside her, one hand steady on the reins, the other ready at his holster. His stride was calm, but there was a storm building behind his eyes. Clara could sense it. "What's your name?" she finally asked in a trembling voice. "Folk just call me Cowboy," he replied. "I ride where I'm needed." "And why? Why help someone like me?" she whispered. He stopped walking for a moment, then looked up into the sunlight cutting through the trees. "Because freedom's a soul's birthright. No man has the right to take it. Not Ruko, not anyone." Then he looked at her. "And because you asked me to leave, but you stayed. That means you're strong, stronger than he ever knew." Clara swallowed hard. She didn't feel strong. She felt broken, but his words wrapped around her like a cloak, holding her pieces together. They traveled for nearly an hour before Cowboy suddenly froze, his hand tightening on the reins. Clara's heart raced. "What is it?" she whispered. He pointed to the ground, hoofprints, fresh, deep, fast. "Ruko's men," Cowboy said. "They're tracking you." Fear clutched her chest. "I should go back," Clara whispered shakily. "If they catch you, they'll—" "They won't," Cowboy said, his voice firm but gentle. "Not today." He helped her dismount and led her between two boulders, overlooking a narrow valley path. The sun brightened the horizon enough to reveal 3 riders, approaching at high speed, dust clouds curling behind them like the tails of wild beasts. Cowboy crouched beside Clara. "Listen to me. If we run, he'll never stop hunting you. He'll take you again, or worse. The only way this ends is if we end it." Clara's pulse hammered in her throat. She knew he was right, yet her mind replayed every threat, every shadow, every night in Ruko's hideout. "I'm scared," she admitted, tears stinging her eyes. He touched her shoulder gently. "Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to stand while shaking." The riders drew closer. Clara watched them, watched the life she'd escaped coming back for her. Cowboy slowly stood, his hand resting on his revolver. "Stay behind me." The first rider, a lanky outlaw with a crooked hat, raised his rifle. Before he could aim, Cowboy fired once. The shot echoed across the valley. The man tumbled from his saddle. The second rider panicked, pulling his horse sideways. Cowboy stepped forward calmly and fired again. This shot struck the rifle clean from the man's hands. The outlaw bolted, galloping away in terror. The third rider stayed back. He wasn't just another henchman. His posture was steady, his movements measured. His eyes burned even from a distance. "Ruko." Clara's breath stopped. Cowboy felt her tremble behind him. "So," Ruko's voice bellowed across the valley. The girl found herself a hero. Cowboy said nothing. Silence stretched between them like a drawn bowstring. "You think you can take what's mine?" Ruko snarled. Cowboy's jaw tightened. "She was never yours." Ruko kicked his horse forward until he stood only 20 paces away. "Move aside, boy. I'll make it quick." Cowboy planted his boots into the dirt. "You've stolen enough lives, Ruko. Today it ends." Clara stepped forward before she could stop herself. "Ruko, I'm not your prisoner anymore." "I'm not afraid of you." Ruko's eyes went wild. "You should be." Cowboy reacted faster than thought. Ruko drew his gun. The same instant Cowboy fired. The crack of the revolver shattered the valley. Ruko slumped, his gun falling uselessly from his hand. The outlaw toppled from his saddle, the dust swallowing him. Silence. Pure heavy silence. Clara's knees weakened. Cowboy rushed to her, catching her before she fell. Tears streamed down her face, not of fear, not of pain, but of release. Years of oppression collapsed inside her like a dying shadow. "It's over," Cowboy whispered. "No," Clara said, lifting her head, her voice steadying. "It's beginning." Cowboy smiled faintly. "Where will you go now?" Clara looked toward the horizon, the place where sky met the earth, wide and endless. "Anywhere I want." Cowboy tipped his hat. "Then let's ride." And together, under the rising sun, Clara and her protector rode toward a new life. A life finally free of chains, shadows, and fear. A life she chose.